Man, what a phenomenal game in the big house today. We're going to talk about that game here real quick. Just a rapid recap of what went down in Ann Arbor earlier tonight. If you bring up this game and you would have told me that Michigan would have thrown the ball for 32 yards, I would have believed you for sure. Like, that wouldn't have been that surprising, but I would have also been like, was the game close? Did USC end up dominating? But yeah, you look at this game and you just got to take it for what it was. The consistent run game to me was not necessarily there, especially in the second half for Michigan. And I think you Wolverine fans won't disagree with me. But it was the fact that they were able to get the explosive runs, 3 big ones, 2 for touchdowns from each, Kalel Mullings and Donovan Edwards, as well as an explosive run that set up Michigan inside the 10 to set up for the game-winning touchdown by Kalel Mullings, in which it took them all 4 downs to stick it in, but they stuck it in. But then when we got there to that 4th down, I did think USC would come up with that stop, just the way that their defense played the whole second half, not allowing a first down until the final drive in the second half. It looked like it was USC's game, but yet they choke it away. They choked it, and they choked it very, very hard. This was something that I didn't see coming as far as Michigan finding the explosive run game against USC. I thought Danton Lynn's defense was a little bit better than what they showed in the first half, but they showed in the second half that they were capable of much more than what they were able to put together. I'm glancing over at the TV looking at these games. All in all, though, it was a tough, gritty victory for Michigan. When they got the ball back, after USC scored, let alone after they gave up the ball again, and USC had a chance to run out the clock, and then they had to spike it to the ground on basically 2 straight screen passes. Every Michigan fan in the world thought they had lost this game. Every single one. I think all Michigan fans thought the game was over once they saw Jacoby Lane catch that touchdown pass. Miller Moss, he played well, but the pick 6 to Will Johnson is frankly a lack of film study right there. I was talking to my wife, and I basically called it out right before the play. I'm like, they're playing off coverage. Will Johnson's baiting them. Run a slow-go or run a hitch and go. And you got him burnt. What do? Hitch to the sticks. When Michigan is free access on the sideline, number one, don't throw towards Will Johnson because he breaks on the ball better than anybody in the country. And I hope he's all right, by the way. He went down with an injury, and they were out Colston Loveland too. Those are their 2 best players on their entire team. They're going to need both of them if they want to do something this year, like make the playoff. In this game, by the way, as we talk about it, major when it comes to making the playoff for either of these teams. USC, though, the team that they played in Michigan today is the same team that Notre Dame is. Notre Dame and Michigan, I was flipping back and forth through those games, and though they were completely different opponents, you might as well flip their uniforms. They're basically the same team. They really are. Elite up front on defense, elite secondaries with a top 5, maybe top 10 pick at corner, and Benjamin Morrison and Will Johnson. Mobile quarterback Alex Orji and Riley Leonard, who struggle to throw the ball. Riley Leonard, congratulations on your first touchdown today, passing the ball, that is. But they're mirror images of themselves. And if USC is going to respond off of this and be able to make a playoff run, they don't play Oregon, they don't play Ohio State, but they're going to basically play Michigan again with the Notre Dame Golden Dome on their heads. They're going to have to put this together for a full game and not let Notre Dame out-physical you with Jeremiah Love, who difference between Michigan and Notre Dame. As much as I like how tough Kalel Mullings was, as much as I like Donovan Edwards' explosiveness, Jeremiah Love is a more complete, better running back than both of those guys. I'm not convinced that their offensive line is necessarily better, but their offensive line is young with more upside, and you don't play them until the last week of the season. USC is going to have another type of this game. They're going to have a test against Penn State. They're going to have a couple more obstacles to get through. And at the end of the day, if Lincoln Riley's end goal is to make the college football playoff, they got to learn a lot from this game. And I feel like Miller Moss, he grew up a ton in this game. He learned a lot in this game and will learn a lot from looking back at film study. And I think this offense is just going to get better after this game. Hopefully it's nothing serious with Lake McCree. Hopefully you can get Mekhi Lemon back as he is a starting receiver, but they have a lot more depth at receiver and young depth as well at receiver. They're going to be a fun team to pay attention to because they have not reached their ceiling, but they're also going to have to make sure they correct a lot of these mistakes if they want to beat Penn State, if they want to beat Notre Dame. On the flip side, Michigan, you showed that you could compete with one of the best in the Big Ten and beat them. You still got to play Oregon. You still got to play Ohio State. But I have said since the beginning of the year, there is a path where Michigan loses those 3 games. Texas, Oregon, Ohio State, and Oregon, by the way, looks more beatable now than they did in the preseason. So even that's not a lock that Michigan loses that home game to Oregon. Oregon and Ohio State is what you have left. If you lose those games, this win is going to help you when it comes to playoff berth, especially because USC got that big win out of conference against the LSU Tigers. So if USC continues to perform well, even if Michigan loses the 2 games they're supposed to lose, Michigan's going to have a good chance to make the college football playoff. When you take a look at Michigan's upcoming schedule, they do have a couple stumble spots. Washington, on the road, tough place to play, not necessarily the toughest of teams. I have Northwestern covering, though I'm freaking 0-5 and walk that line. Don't even talk to me about that right now. They have to play at Illinois, but they're off of a bye when they play at Illinois. Now, I know playing at Illinois might be a little bit tougher this year because there's a lot of buy-in to that football team right now, especially after last night. They play Oregon. They play at Indiana, who's going to be a very tough out with how Kurt Cignetti has very quickly changed that program. And then they play at Ohio State. Those are the trip-up spots for them. Oh, wow. I just saw the craziest interception by USF. That was crazy. It was right off the hands of the receiver. I think it was Restrepo. Anyway, Michigan's got a good path to the playoff, though. If they take care of business in the games they're going to be favored in, if they just lose to Oregon or Ohio State, if they beat one of those 2 and take care of business the rest of the way, it's very obvious they're going to make the college football playoff. They're probably going to be in the Big Ten championship at that point. So all in all, big win for Michigan. Huge loss for USC, a devastating loss. As you take a look at their upcoming schedule here, they play Wisconsin next week, which without Tyler Van Dyke should be an easier test, but you got to worry about a little bit of a hangover spot. You play Penn State in a couple of weeks on October 12th, one of those loaded Saturday. Play at Washington, play Nebraska at home, and you end the year with Notre Dame, which is an out-of-conference game, but is a game that they're probably going to need to win at this point to be able to make the playoff. If they just lose one of those games down the stretch and they end up going 10-2, I think USC's got a good chance of being in that at least playoff conversation, but they got to fix a little bit of stuff before they can beat Notre Dame, and I feel like Notre Dame is the one. Especially if Notre Dame does continue on this winning track, you beat Notre Dame, you get in over Notre Dame. It's really that simple. So even if you lose to Penn State, even if you don't make the Big Ten championship, if you take care of business and you go into that Notre Dame game and you win, you're going to get in over Notre Dame and you're going to be in the college football playoff this year. All in all, both great teams, fantastic game. evenly matched teams. I don't think they're at the top of the sport, but I think they can be competitive with the top of the sport with what I saw today. Alex Orji will be the starter going forward, even though he only threw for 32 yards. That is the offense that they need. The reason why Michigan's run game opened up a little bit was because at all times, USC accounted for the quarterback run. And as a result, Michigan had success. They're going to have success with Alex Orji, at least against most teams. And we'll see if it's going to be sustainable against Oregon and Ohio State later in the year. Till next time, I'll see you guys if I do another reaction video later on in the night. Make sure you leave a like on this video and enjoy the college football Saturday.